Sweet. Are we good to go? Cool. Well, I'll just start it up. I wanted to make a point to link up with you while you're in town for the shows and to see the family and everything.
Sure.
For everybody who doesn't know who this is, my dear friend Kyle Knickerbocker, musical confidant and master of knowledge, and I'm sure he would argue that and be the humble guy that he is, but tens of thousands of hours doing that thing, and to the point where now you're a professor of electronic music or just music in general?
Just
music in general.
all things audio technology.
Okay,
Like
so audio
music technology. Yeah.
Cool. Sweet. And what college is that?
Currently, I work at Trinity
In Hartford, Connecticut.
Hartford, Connecticut.
Yep.
And then the year before, I was at Indiana University.
Yep.
And then the year before that, I was here in Denver teaching at CU Denver and at Front Range Community College.
Incredible. And what does that mostly consist of? Like, you said it basically everything that under that umbrella, but like, what does your daily curriculum or monthly curriculum look like?
Well,
You're doing something like
it
that.
depends on the semester. And
I didn't go to college, so I don't even know.
Yeah, so each semester varies because obviously all the classes that I teach at any given school aren't ran all at the same time, and they don't make you teach more than 3 or 4 classes. So let's say for the spring semester, I'll be teaching advanced recording arts, intro to recording arts, and the sound for film class.
Oh, cool.
But the last spring semester, I also taught synthesis and sound design class. So it's highly dependent upon which classes are running. So, but everything is audio and music technology related, right?
Mm-hmm. So you pretty much run the whole gamut of beginner to expert stuff then.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So level in college, because 100, 200, 300, 400 level classes for undergraduates. And the 100 classes are generally intro, and then 200 and 300 level classes will be more difficult and more advanced. And I assume that things that you would have to study in the 100 classes to be in those.
Yeah, or you just be out of your depth.
Yeah, because I'm pushing you.
Yeah.
I mean, before we started talking, you mentioned about how watching somebody better than you could help you understand a certain process.
Yeah.
I think one other way to get people to learn something is that if you have someone who kind of understands, let's say how a DAW works.
Yeah.
And you're trying to get them to do something, that you don't necessarily have to show them step by step how to do that. You tell them what you need done.
Right.
And then you let them figure it out. And then when they figure it out because they struggled a little bit, it's more a memorable experience.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what learning is, essentially.
That makes sense.
Making an impact on somebody.
Yeah.
Because if I hold your hand the whole time, you might remember it. But if I give you a task and say, this is how you...
It's your task.
These are the tools you have.
Yeah.
This is what I want you to do. Figure it out. And from what you've already learned, you should be able to figure this out.
So you set incremental goals for the class to kind of work towards and tasks and problems to solve, essentially.
It's more like guided experiences. Yeah. I set up an experience and then I kind of sit back.
What would be a good example of something you did like that recently, just for my brain to have a idea?
So for microphone polar patterns, for example, there are 3 main polar patterns, omnidirectional, all around, cardioid, which is unidirectional, or these microphones, they record right in front, and bidirectional, or figure 8, they record front and back. So I have the students walk around the microphone, and the rest of the class is in a control room listening, and one student's walking around the microphone, making sound or clapping or what have you. And as they walk around the microphone, you'll hear the volume change.
Interesting. And
depending on the mic polarity, whether it's omni or cardioid or figure 8 or whatever, the point in the circle at which the volume shifts changes, right? So instead of just explaining that to you and showing you a graph, which I will do as well, I'm having you experience it. Like you're involved in the microphone displaying those amplitude changes over different degrees.
It's training your brain to hear it.
Yeah, that too.
So you have a reference in your brain for what the word is.
And also they're running the DAW and they're activating the signal flow, and they're in the studio walking around the mics and setting them up and looking at the polar patterns and changing them around.
So cool.
So it's more active,
experiential.
Yeah, because if you just say read this, I could tell you to read a book from front to back on the art of recording,
and a kid could memorize it overnight in theory or whatever and spit it out the next day and it'd be gone.
Absolutely. But if you want to actually know how to track a bunch of instruments at once, you need to do it.
Throw someone in a room with a bunch of instruments and a bunch of microphones and a mixer. Sure.
But at least tell them what phantom power is.
Yeah.
So they don't blow anything up. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's the whole
guided.
Yeah, guided part.
Brilliant. That's awesome. Yeah, man. I what a special thing to be able to A, share with people, and B, like to be able to partake in as a young adult and a young musician. So many people we know, so many people I'm surrounded by are very self-taught, to the point where like the people who I do know that are audio engineers, their knowledge almost like starts where mine stops. I know software. And I know I have a good ear for sound. I've DJ'd for 10 years and played music my whole life. But, as far as engineering goes, it's very new, There's so much,
There is so much. In it. And the technology is always changing. And there's always new stuff coming out. There's always more to know.
And I feel like DAWs in general give you like this really elongated sense. We may not even recognize it, like of beginner's luck, basically. Yes. You know what I mean? Like where it's like, it's you're able to churn out something that's sounds decent really quickly.
Sure.
Depending on how you go about things.
Right.
I
mean, the technology today has made that a lot easier.
Right.
Yeah.
But like the difference between 80% and 100% is almost like, what is that quote? Like the last 10% is like the longest, I forget
something like that. But you're right. It's like getting your mix or your production skills or like
anything you do, any creative thing you do.
Sure. Like we're narrowing the gap between what you're imagining and what you're actually realizing. Right. Like that last 20%, that last 10%, the last 5% is the hardest, right? Like I feel
there's like more time. Yeah, 90% of the time goes into the last 10% or something like that. It's like
and like I feel like you progress really quickly in the beginning, right? And then I've been doing this for 22 years now, and I feel like I'm still working on that 5% at the end,
right?
And I still hear other people's productions where I'm like, God damn, how do they do that? Like,
right? They may not even know they're doing it though.
Sure,
I think a lot of cats like don't even know they're doing it.
Yeah,
I think they're able to stay out of their own way a little bit through the ignorance is bliss in certain ways,
And that's
and then or they'll work with someone like you that like knows what to do with something that's like 90% done.
And that's the trick.
And you're not getting in your own way because it's someone else's music and you're able to help finish it, like in my situation or whatever,
And then it's been the trick for me is like knowing this tech and then having to let go of technical things and just play with the art form and not care about let there be
the
fluff.
rules.
Yeah. Sure. Like one of my favorite quotes that I have, and it applies to both the intro classes and the advanced classes, because a lot of young students are very, they're excited and passionate and they want to know, how'd you do this crazy thing or show me some tricks or whatever. But there's a quote I have in the classroom, in the control room, and it says, it's from Picasso.
Great guy.
Learn the rules like a professional so you can break them like an artist.
Yeah.
And that's so critical, right? Yep. Like if you
powerful information
know why you're overdriving this mic preamp,
right?
Like what's happening, and then you could do it on purpose when you need to.
Totally. Yeah. And I feel like there's the opposite of that too, which is like know the art and then learn the rules as quickly as possible afterwards. I feel like that's like what a lot of the EDM culture ends up being, is like these prolific creatives that make like 2 albums that are like, what even is this? And then they learn all the rules and their whole style changes, you know, and then they have a hard time getting back to that momentum of like not knowing any of the rules and just being able to churn out like really creative and psychedelic music, you know. So, you know, there's always like a happy middle spot, I'm sure, you know,
Sure.
with everything.
And
but,
it's like, what are the rules, right?
right.
Like,
Sure.
they're-
There's definitely formulas.
yeah, there's formulas.
Yeah.
Sure.
So like learn the formulas in any way you can,
Right.
you know.
And there's a balance, especially in
Yeah,
DJ and dance music.
of course.
Like if you
Certain
make-
formulas are effective for a reason.
absolutely,
you know.
and like if you make a track that's too abstract or too weird, A, maybe some DJs won't play it, and B, the dance floor
Right.
won't be able to dance to it.
Right.
So there's that.
If that's what you're going for.
Yeah, absolutely. But there's different spaces for
Of course.
different
Yeah,
sounds,
definitely.
different styles.
Which is like, you know, brings me to, you know, the second topic that I wanted to little touch on, and we can go back to the education stuff, but you played last night as direct support for Sicaria Sound and the Whittler over at the Black Box. And me and all the homies that I was with, we all felt that was kind of a long time coming for you. You've been, you know, supporting the community and from the background in the shadows for going on 15 years at this point in different ways, you know. So being able to play with some hot names that are playing at the Black Box, you know, in a sold out room. But like when you started, there was probably 50 to 75 people in the room. By the time you were done, it was completely packed, you know. So I mean, how did you feel that went? A, and B, like what was some of the content that you put in there? I know I heard a bunch of your tunes and a bunch of the collabs, Max Mischief stuff and Quizma.
Yep.
But you know, that like neuro dungeon sound is something that's always kind of been ruminating in the subgenres of dubstep, the basement, you know. But
Totally.
I feel like it's in the next couple years, there's going to be more people getting turned on to that style, and it'll have its own. And it's already happening in a lot of ways, but it'll have its own place. I feel like it'll earn its own place more so because the producers that are making it, as you know, are prolific. You know? They're on some other shit.
Yeah, I mean, we just kept Sub Pressure and people that work with the label. We just kept making that sound.
Yeah, totally.
And it's just because that's what I like.
Yep. Did you play? Was it a Dyad tune?
No.
Do you know Dyad?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean,
but
it sounded similar to that.
I didn't play a Dyad
No,
tune. I
okay.
wonder which one you're talking about.
Yeah, me and Chance were trying to figure it out, but
Okay.
we were nitpicking the whole set. But
I wonder which track that
I should have
is.
recorded. I hope that they did record it. They
yeah,
did.
because they asked me.
Okay, cool. That's it. As far as I'm concerned, whatever mistakes you feel like you might have had are what make it a DJ set and real. Like there was nothing like, oh, come on, dude. Like it was.
Yeah.
There was little like, little late hi hat. Like fixed it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that sort of stuff is
like-
what gets everybody in the room going. Like
Sure.
the DJs at least. It
Yeah.
like gets the ear up, and you're all, and then they're like, oh, he's good. He's good.
Right. Because there's just like stupid little things like there was one track that you downloaded and you expect it to be, you know, cut to the beginning of the song,
Right.
but it's not.
Yeah.
Cut to the bar, and you go to cue it up, and you didn't set your cue points because you're fucking in a hurry.
Yeah.
And you're in the middle of the mix, and you bring this track in, and you're like, all right, it's locked in, yeah. And then when the snare comes in, you realize it's like a quarter bar or a half bar off.
Yeah.
And you're like,
I call that fun.
crap. Okay. So then instead of like screwing with the cue point at the beginning of the track, I just grabbed another tune.
Right.
And I was like, okay, this one now. Forget that. I'm not even going to mess with this right now.
Yep.
And that threw me off.
Yeah.
Right? So, and then there's another time where I bumped the fader with my hand and it was like off beat slightly.
Didn't notice.
But I noticed, right? But besides that, I thought it was an amazing set.
Yeah.
And I love playing the Black Box.
course.
It's just like one of my favorite venues to play.
It's a special spot.
Absolutely.
It's I always say it's as much as a music venue as it is a library. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
It's where a lot of different ears go to study, and like not only hear new music, but like hear new sounds.
Mm-hmm.
Like a lot of us go from our music studios to the black box, and that's it, or to a venue that has at least decent comparable sound.
Right.
Because and there aren't many places in the world where you can do that. Go from your own studio to state of the art, $100,000, function 1, 2 into the room.
That's
and
true.
then back, and then not have a polluted sound experience.
Right. And it is a good testing ground for your mixes or masters or whatever. And how many other venues have a tuned room with diffusion and acoustic
Not
absorption?
many.
Like not that many.
So, like really nice ones do, but a lot of times they're not playing audiophile music.
And it's not even like the biggest, hugest sound system, but
no, it's perfect
for the room. And like there are some places in other big cities like New York where you have these $250,000 line arrays, but then the room they didn't do anything to, and it sounds like garbage because there's all these echoes, and you put it in a big hallway, and like, man, your $250,000 sound system is struggling in this big concrete
and for the rider to be fulfilled for whatever artist is coming through.
And in the black box, you're not getting that because diffusion and things and putting 10 grand of absorption in the ceiling, it actually helps.
And people are artists are starting to realize that even more so. And there's artists that would only play in 500 cap or bigger rooms that are willing to take a pay cut to just play that room. That's which has been happening. It's becoming a destination venue just to play, never mind visit.
Yeah.
So it's definitely special. I compare it like I don't know if you follow like comedy at all, or like the LA comedy store scene or anything like that. But there's just a ton of comedians that are in and out of that spot, and the legendary place, and it's cultivated so much talent. And I feel like Black Box is becoming something similar to that. Every venue in every city has that like little sense of a community and like the local guys or whoever's but like it's like happening at a pretty alarming rate, and there's no competition. Like when there is, it's friendly.
Yeah.
But there's just like the love gets spread out really nicely, and everybody's really supportive, and it's a special thing, man.
Definitely. And the crowd is really
they know.
They're passionate.
Like there's kids up in the front row know your tracks before you're playing.
Yeah, that's crazy.
You know what I mean? Like
that's amazing.
It's so awesome. I mean, we're half of them. We're all yelling but there's what other venue is there going to be? Half the audience has potentially a flash drive in their pocket. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's funny.
and they know the music, and you're playing music that's like not out.
Yeah, some of it. Yeah, totally.
Certain ones are out, but like I've played a few of those tracks there, but I might be one of the few that have played some of those tracks there.
Sure.
Maybe a few other people, but like
and some of them aren't even on the SoundCloud, so they haven't even gone public.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah. It's like just some of your unreleased stuff.
Sure. Yep.
So it was really cool to be able to hear that stuff in there, from the crowd, and be able to hang out. Because as far as sound design goes, it's just new. I mean, it's not new, but I mean, it's new to the space.
Yeah.
It's not. It's not that sound isn't as common there yet.
That's great.
Which is good. Which is why it was definitely captivating for a lot of people.
That's good.
Yeah.
Definitely. I mean, I guess that kind of is a good lead into what I was playing. So like I want to be able to show something that's still dance floor friendly, but new and fresh.
Totally.
But I was also playing some older tunes as well. Like not every track is the newest unreleased thing. I played a lot of stuff from the record label. I played some older stuff from a record label. I played an old Black Sun Empire dubstep tune from like 2013 or 12.
Sweet.
The 405. Yeah. So, but a lot of it is just sub pressure releases, like the first 5 tracks probably, or something like that. Forthcoming stuff. on the label.
Right.
I played you heard a lot of collabs. I love collaborating with friends. So a lot of the music that I have is music I've made with friends. So like tracks I've made with Kelly Dean. I played track I made with Leon Switch, which is coming out on Sub Pressure soon in early 2020. I played a track I made with Quizma. Played a track I made with Max Mischief that already came out.
Right. That one's awesome.
Yeah, no escaping.
It slaps on that sound system.
Yeah, that analog Eurorack sub bass on there. And that track's been out for a while, but I'll tell you what, I still like get amped up playing it, and it's because the crowd gets amped up. Like, or one of the tracks I played was this. Me and Section 8 made a track called Mars, and then Kelly Dean approached me and asked me to do a remix. So of course I said yes, because he's a great producer and a great friend, and he came back with a sick remix, and I dropped that last night at the Black Box, and right in the pause of the track I hear someone yelling, and that like the crowd is getting amped up, and that just kind of gives you the chills. Like,
oh yeah,
it's
the best.
Yeah, and that's awesome when you have like a new tune that you've played once before, maybe.
Right.
I think I played in Boston, and that's it. But then you play at the Black Box, and the crowd goes nuts, and it's fresh and coming out soon.
Yeah, I mean,
on your own label.
The anticipation for a lot of people when they've like heard a song trickling in the mix, that's what gets people wild.
I mean, sometimes I have to stop and pinch myself, because it's like, oh wait, you're like, this is a track you made with Leon Switch, and like you're mixing into a track that Biome made, and like these are people that you look up to, and like it took a long time when I actually felt like my music was hitting on par with other music that I
liked. And it does. Definitely does.
Dude, it took me forever to even believe that.
And take it from this guy, how old are you now?
Too old, 38 now.
Exactly. So that's not too old, and you just get warmed up. I mean, how many, 23-year-old veteran producers do I know? They're like, yeah, well, my music's never going to be good enough. It's like, you better get used to thinking that about yourself, because that's like one of the main fuels of like getting better.
Sure.
So like you have to have that mind, and you also have the mind of like, I'm always good enough.
Right. Well, that's
right. But the track might not be,
right.
but I am. Yep. You know what I mean? And there's a huge difference. And I think a lot of people get those two confused and in the same sandwich, but like, just because your project isn't, there's a huge difference between not being good enough and not being ready.
Right. Yeah, that's a big,
and that's,
definitely.
I think that's like a maturity that comes with like putting out music that's not ready.
Right.
Just because you think that you're good enough or whatever, or you're insecure.
Sure.
Or whatever it is, or you feel like you're competing with other people.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, really, it's just you're competing with yourself and your own like mind, like your weird trips that we can go on about ourselves.
Isn't that mostly the main thing here? Was it you're competing with yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's good too. It's also, but like, we like, for instance, like I saw you chime in on the whole like Dub Block Award thing. And I think as much as like, of course, like music shouldn't be a competition, playing shows 100% is. And whether anybody wants to admit that, like you're competing against everybody else that wants to play shows too.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Sure.
And like, whether it's you're looking to make money or you're looking to share your music or it's just an ego trip or you're trying to impress the girl or whatever it is, there's a bunch of people trying to play shows. And there's only so many set times. So like admitting that to yourself as an artist or as a DJ or a producer or whatever, super important, because like, you don't want to get caught up not paying any attention to that. If your goal is to play shows, you have to play the game to a certain extent.
Sure.
However, when it comes to your own creativity and your own art and your own processes and your own active meditation of creating things, that's not a competition.
No.
And if it is, it's just against your time from yesterday, or whatever.
Sure.
Your own thing. But it is a competitive performance realm for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not cutthroat if you don't want it to be, but it can be if you let it.
Definitely.
If you trust the wrong people, basically.
Sure.
I've found it can seem cutthroat.
Yeah.
Or if you allow Yeah, basically just that. I'm just gonna leave it at that. If you trust the wrong people,
Yeah.
because like if you allow the wrong person to walk all over you and take advantage of you, really quickly you could be like, oh, I don't really like this scene at all. Like,
Sure.
you know what I mean? But I've been doing it for 10 years. You've been doing it for longer than that. Like there's good promoters and there's bad promoters.
Yeah.
And there's certain people, and it's usually the ones that are artists themselves that are good promoters.
Yeah.
And they're the ones
That's
that don't
true.
take care of you and like understand the dynamic of traveling and getting there to play
And what
the
it
gig and, like,
takes.
what it all takes.
Definitely.
And they'll be honest with you from the beginning. We got a tiny budget. We want you here. We'll pay for your flights. We'll put you up. We'll give you the good slot, though.
Yeah. I mean, it all got easier for me when I stopped pursuing it as a means of surviving.
Yeah. That's a healthy move.
Yeah. And maybe that, and for some people that worked out for them, and that's awesome.
I don't think it did, though. I think it seems like it does, but I don't really think it does.
Sure. But I mean, you see that certain people face value making millions being DJs.
Sure, that's like 1% of
1%.
Yeah.
Sure, 5%.
And there's a lot, like you have to have capital to get to that place.
Sure.
So they're not
And you
like
have to
they're
have
not
other
starting like with
things.
nothing in the fridge. Like
Right.
they've got a family member that's helping them get to that spot or
Sure.
someone.
Because you need promo.
Which
You
good for
need-
them.
You need to be more than just a good DJ and a good producer to make
Of course.
it there.
Yeah. You're playing against the riptides of corporations at that point.
Yes.
You know.
Yeah. And once I personally was able to let go of trying to survive off of gigging, it was easier for me.
Right.
Because now it's not that big of a deal to me if I don't have a gig this month or next.
Right.
And I could focus on making music and
You could
running
play the
record
long
label.
game too and wait
Yeah.
for the opening for Sicaria and Whittler at the Black Box sold out gig instead of
Yeah.
like, just put me on in the lounge. Like I'll be out like next month. Just put me on. You
Right.
know? You can just be
Totally.
like, I'm gonna wait and then I'm gonna cash in this card when like I know I'm gonna be around and we'll see what's going on.
Yes.
You know?
Precisely.
And it's not a desperate
And I
move.
could turn down the other gigs.
Sure. Which
when
nothing against any of those gigs. Fucking
No.
some people need to get experience on stage, experience with CDJs,
Yeah.
experience just getting to the show on time, like all that. It's important. Not hating on any like started gigs stuff, but when you've been doing it for 10 years, it's better to hang back and play the right shows,
Absolutely.
so that the context that you're seen in is something that is memorable for a longer period of time because it's gonna be a longer period of time before you play your next show.
Yep. And your time is precious. Yeah. You have to like allocate which shows you can play because you don't have time to take every gig
Right.
or offered or whatever.
Yeah.
And sometimes it just gets frustrating when you drive out to, a bar in the middle of nowhere and there's only 5 people there. You're
Right.
like, why am I here?
Yeah, exactly.
What am I
well,
doing?
you're getting paid $500. So
Well, what am I
like,
doing right
yeah.
now?
This doesn't seem right.
I
Like,
could be in my studio making the next track.
right. And for some people that, like I said, they need that practice of like just going and doing it.
Yeah.
Some people need that humility too.
Yeah.
You know what I
totally.
mean? Like I know I
Totally.
did. Like, you used to first start DJing, you have like 3 great gigs because your homies set you up with the perfect scenario and you
Right.
think it's all you. And then like you have one where no one's there.
Mm-hmm.
You're yourself.
Yep.
But those are important.
Totally.
That's when you learn to play to the bartender, the painter, and the 2 people that are slow dancing. Like you play the slow jams,
yeah.
and they go home and tell their friends and family, like, yeah, he could have played the gnarliest shit ever, but he just played to us.
Yeah.
And that's special, and like that's what a good DJ is, in my opinion. And like you can play some of your other just the stuff that you wanted to, but like, why play, Rail Riders when you could like get somebody laid and paid that night,
Totally.
Like,
I mean,
there's 5 people there, play to 5 people.
I've played desert parties where I thought there was nobody on the dance floor, and it was like a huge 50,000 watt system, and I think there's no one on the dance floor, but I'm just playing to the sunrise, and I'm like, okay, here comes the sunrise. Let's play some sunrise-esque, like mystical bass music, right? Super beautiful atmospheric pads, but as soon as the sun breaks the horizon, I could see like people off in the distance getting down, like really into it. Like the sun's rising and there's like a couple over there and then like a tribe of like 4 over here. And like 5 little elvins over here,
Right.
like over by a rock and a cacti. And you're just like,
course.
oh wow, okay. So
This is the soundtrack to
there
a bunch
were
of people
dancing out there.
Yeah.
Like I couldn't see them.
Totally. It's the best feeling, man.
Amazing,
Yeah,
right?
no, definitely.
And then you realize you were playing to them.
Yeah.
But even though
and whoever's in the campground, and,
right.
Yeah, those are always special moments. I mean, I remember just going to festivals for my first time and like hearing people DJ at their campsites or whatever, and just some of them obviously just like somebody cut the wire to this, this sound system, please. But then there's like the people that like respect the fact that there's 100 people laying in their tents and like, Alex is legendary for that. Siva, our roommate here, his sunrise sets and his festival camp out sets are always just so special, man. All over the place.
I think the sunrise set is a special sacred time.
It is
to play.
Introspective.
Yeah, and you can't just rail it. And
No.
it's a time to be taken sincerely. I think if you have the decks at that moment.
Definitely.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of people are like winding down from whatever they had going on that night, and it's like a fragile state of mind,
Absolutely.
And it's a renewed state of mind too when the sun's coming up. I feel like, and being able to do a soundtrack for that. Definitely done some special desert campouts. We got to get one in New Mexico soon.
Yeah,
There's a couple
I've never
cool
been
spots.
in desert New Mexico, but obviously Nevada and California.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I'd love to go to New Mexico.
Did you ever do any like the Moon Tribe stuff?
No.
No, like outside of LA,
But I've been to their shows, but I haven't been on their lineups.
Me neither. Yeah, me neither. I'm interested to check them out. I mean, I love that full moon camp out stuff.
Yes.
Good for the soul.
Yeah, being in the desert at night is much better than the day, in my opinion.
Yeah, I would have to agree.
I don't like the direct sun.
No, I mean, it's nice if there's like some canopies or something like that, some sort of structure. But yeah, definitely nighttime in the desert's special. All the stars, and it's just nice and cool.
Yeah.
But hey, I want to loop back to some of your educational stuff and really just like, a hot topic in the producer world these days is obviously Euro rack synthesis.
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of people are realizing that having physical tools outside of the DAWs that we use makes your brain think in different ways and
Absolutely.
solve problems in different ways and experiment in different ways. So from what I gather, your thesis was Euro rack synthesis, and you wrote a book on it. And I would love to know about that process and kind of your philosophies there and what made you write that many words about twiddling knobs.
So I just clearly I have passion for music technology and especially synthesizers, and I've always wanted a modular synth, looking at those big old Moogs, but could never afford one until Eurorack came about, right? Because it made it affordable for mere mortals. And it is quite addictive, and I was bitten by the bug. So how did I write that many words? Well, partly it was a requirement to get a master's degree so I could further my career as a professor. And secondly, since I had already written that many words, I decided to just expand on it and turn it into a book. So that's how it got from 200 something words to 290 pages. Not 200 words, but yeah, 290 pages, which is, I never thought I would write anything like that. But it's very technical and just kind of covers everything that you would need to know if you had never touched modular synthesis before and were putting a system together, and what all the pieces did on their own, how they might work together, right? How did I go about doing that? I actually wrote the table of contents first, and that was probably the most helpful thing I ever did. So after coming up with the kind of abstract of what the book would be about, I wrote the chapters, right? The
skeleton.
Exactly. And then filled in the blanks, right? I would just go in and be like, okay, well, I have let's break it down into there's bits of modular synthesis or components in any synthesizers that are sound sources. Okay. So I have a section of sound sources, then I have sub chapters within that of different types of sound sources, right? Like noise or oscillators or sample playback, wavetables, what have you. And then there's audio modification, right? Or things that modify audio signals, like filter, for example, might not necessarily generate audio on its own, but it
modifies.
It changed the audio. Or same thing with the distortion. And then you have things that generate control voltage, or in a digital realm, we might just say the modulation, right? Like LFOs and envelope generators. Like they don't make sounds, but they change parameters that change the tone of the sound over time, right? So the book is organized in that way, like looking at all the different components. And then it comes back and looks at system examples and then a little bit of basic patching examples, right? Yeah. Still working on it. Like the process of getting it published through a major publishing company means that there's a lot of extra paperwork that has to be done.
Of course.
Verifying all these technical terms and making sure it's correct, and writing an index and a glossary and a lot of extra.
Are there illustrations that come with any of it, or is it all just
there's a ton of illustrations.
Did you do all of it?
I did some of the illustrations, and some of them are pictures from other manufacturers.
Yeah. From the actual components you're talking about.
Right, right. So it's just like photos of
all that has to
actual
get
modules
cleared too.
Right, and I've had permission from these companies to use their images in the book.
Yeah, I mean it's ultimately benefiting them.
Sure, it's kind of like
they're being more
free advertising almost.
Yeah.
Sure.
Well, that's awesome. Cool that they're open to it. I mean, I feel like that world's probably pretty. I don't want to say open source because, like, certain things obviously take money to make, so they want to make money off of it. But like, as far as sharing the knowledge, I mean, they want more people using these things.
Absolutely, and most of the companies are small companies, but recently, Roland and Behringer have started to get into making Eurorack modules, but most of the companies are run by one or two people, or WMD here in Denver, right? And you could like find out who is operating these companies and talk to them on social media and ask them about their modules or buy modules directly from them in some cases. I needed repair on a module from Make Noise, and I would contact them and send it to them directly. So there's a huge benefit to working with all these smaller companies, and there's a big sense of community.
Now, for anybody that doesn't know what these things are that we're talking about, you want to just kind of break down like what it looks like, what it is. I mean, I could do it from a layman's perspective, but I'm sure you could do a much better job.
So, Eurorack is just a particular format of modular synthesis. So basically, it's just a certain size module, right?
Like a box.
Yeah, like Legos for synthesizers, and they have a panel with knobs and then jacks for in and out.
It's like a guitar pedal, but not in the shape of a guitar pedal.
Right.
A chip with knobs and ins and outs on it.
Exactly. So they share the same height, and then they have width that is measured in HP, which is like millimeters or something. Doesn't really matter. And then they have shared power, and they share the same 3.5 or 1/8 inch connectors, right? And it's kind of like synthesizer Legos. So you have like the different pieces that you might find in a software synthesizer or a fixed architecture synthesizer, like let's say, Serum or something like that. You have oscillators, you have filters, you have LFOs, you have all these things in one piece of software, right? Well, in Eurorack, you go and you get a Eurorack module that's an oscillator.
Yeah.
And
for one purpose.
One purpose. It generates, oscillations. It takes CV pitch in. It changes its frequency based on the pitch voltage and output probably multiple waveforms. And maybe it has additional functionality depending on what module. And then you have a module for filtering. And then if you're going for a basic subtractive synthesis type, setup, you'll have a module for amplification, like a voltage controlled amplifier, VCA. right? So each piece is doing its part in the signal flow instead of having one synthesizer that all these components are already interconnected. And the major benefit of that is that I could have an oscillator from one company and then a filter from a different company and then this amplifier from a different company, and you could have the same setup, like oscillator, filter, VCA, but they could all be from different companies, and your synth could sound different than mine, even though we have the same set of components, right? Because
different chipsets,
different filters, right? Filters add a lot of character, or your VCA might have a different sound to it, right? So, and that's the beauty of it, right? And also, I could say, hey, I really like the way your filter sounds. You want to trade for a week, and then take mine, and I can take yours, and I can unscrew it.
They're small and relatively affordable, so that's why they're
relative.
Yeah, relatively, because they can pieces can start at $50, and then things can be also $5,000. Like
sure, they're the big make noise shared system.
Yeah,
sure.
So it's a deep rabbit hole.
It is a
to
deep
fall
rabbit
into,
hole,
which is why producers love rabbit holes.
Right, and it has all this because there's all these small boutique companies. They're allowed to do more experimental things that bigger companies like Roland or Korg aren't going. But Korg, actually, credit to them, they have done some pretty cool stuff with their Volca line and some really encouraging like circuit bending of their own products by giving out schematics and labeling things on the PCBs where to solder if you want to hack it, right? So that's cool. Props to them. But these smaller Eurorack companies in particular, they make just like really abstract modules, right? And you don't have to think of the whole synthesizer, right? But you could just think, oh, I want a way to interface the heartbeat with my synthesizer. Oh, I'm going to make a Eurorack module that takes heartbeat from your finger or whatever and turns that into control voltage. And there's one that does it with brainwaves right now, right? And so you could sit there and like that company could just focus on doing that one product that takes
just beat Mario over and over again with that on your head and make it generate music.
Exactly. Or like, there's other company that made a VCA, a voltage controlled amplifier, or maybe it was a distortion. Anyway, either way, distortion has amps in it. And part of the amplification stage was dirt from Transylvania. And they were like, oh yeah, it's got this Dracula dirt in here, right? And so like, you're going to drive your signal through this Dracula dirt and it will sound extra gritty.
That's so good.
Right. And there's these other companies like, oh, we have these new old stock, Russian Polyvoc parts that we're using in our modules. So it really it creates a space for companies to experiment
and to have character and like have like a cool retro
absolutely
thing. Like I've definitely seen some really cool graphic design on a lot of them.
Right.
Real sorcery looking
sci-fi
definitely. Tools.
Yeah, it's wonderful. Like Make Noise and Folk Tech or something like that. Yeah, they have like some really
masculine,
great looking panels.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, it's a beautiful thing and highly addictive. I have plans to expand my Eurorack, and I don't know if that will ever stop.
Why should it?
Because you could keep going.
That's fine.
You could always let me
Nothing
add
wrong
something.
With that.
Let me add.
People
something.
collect all sorts of ridiculous things.
Your Eurorack could be the size of an iPad, or it could be the size of a wall, right?
Or a room,
or an entire room.
Yeah. There's guys that have it.
Yeah, absolutely. You could use it to make an entire composition, or like myself, you could use it just to make one sound in your composition.
Who are 3 people that you could recommend checking out just to see what kind of Eurorack art they're making?
Richard Devine,
of course,
would be top of my list. Basek, Baseck from LA.
Okay,
he's really good. Does like some really hectic, lots of drum bricky stuff.
Cool.
Drum Cell is another guy from LA, I believe, too, that does like some live modular things.
Sweet.
And there are a few names that are right on the tip of my tongue right now, and I would need a computer to verify.
That's fine.
But yeah.
I mean, I can give you this if you want. But
if you check out those 3.
I mean, we can drop links.
That'll get your rabbit hole
Yeah.
started.
When we broadcast this, we'll drop links in the chat room, some other stuff to check out.
Sure, I could picture.
And we're
3
gonna
other
have
people.
nerds that are probably like ready to, kill us for not mentioning specific people too. But that's how that world is.
Well, we don't need to mention like classic people. I'm talking about people that are doing
innovative
cool
things
right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, because the list of history is probably long,
of course,
and exhaustive.
I mean, I would love to do multiple podcasts with you so we can talk about a bunch of different stuff. But one of the other things I really wanted to touch on is you've been running Sub Pressure for 10 years now, as of November.
Yep.
And you've had 25 releases, I believe.
Something like that.
Something like that.
I don't know.
Sweet. And
so you have like EPs and compilations, and combined, I think we're
in that area.
Yeah, around 25. Yeah.
Well, I mean, just give me some insight into what that has consisted of, and like how the label has brought value to you as a producer and as a mastering engineer and as a DJ.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like, I feel like a lot of people get caught up just doing the DJ thing or just doing the production thing, and they wonder how they can get ahead a little bit. And I feel like it's having that social value of that extra work you're putting in to expose people to new artists.
Sure.
Like through a label or through, say, like a blog or publication of some sort. Just being a DJ these days it's almost like just the base level, like being a good DJ.
Right.
You got to have like some sort of platform to put it on, or at least to exchange that value.
Definitely.
You can reach out to these artists that make similar music and be like, hey, I've got this label. You know what I mean? Love to put you on it.
Yep.
Send me all your unreleased music.
Sure.
And here's all mine.
Yeah.
It's
been a great way to socialize with people in that way, and to basically, I started the label because I was helping a friend run a drum and bass label called Peer Pressure, which is Sub Pressure's sister label, and I had started playing dubstep. This was back in 2006, 2007, and I basically had stopped playing drum and bass and just was dived into the dubstep thing full force, and found myself surrounded by a bunch of friends that were starting to make it as well.
Right. And
a buddy of mine said, well, why don't we just start a dubstep label? And I was like, that sounds great. And he was like, well, you should run it. And I was like, okay. And he helped me with the initial setup, which is awesome, because that part of getting the record label going is definitely the hardest.
Yeah.
Like, just establishing a good set of initial releases and some artists that you're working with and a logo and a distribution and a presence online and merch and what have you. And like, it's always something that needs to be worked on constantly when you're running the label, I think, too. But I'm really glad I had some help in the first couple of years. And he moved on to something else, and now I've been running the record label by myself,
right,
for almost the last 8 years. Yeah, I mean, I guess I run it just because it's great for me to expose people to new music, and I feel like here's this music I enjoy, and I think other people will like it too.
Yeah.
And that's the point, right? And where I find people maybe that aren't as exposed as I think they should be, and then give them, the exposure they need, and connect them to other people that I've connected
in an
with.
ethical and professional way.
Yeah, absolutely.
A lot of people will just start a band camp and say they run a label. You know what I mean? It's
right.
Like you've gone about it for long enough to know how to do it in a professional manner, so that if some sci-fi movie or show comes along and loves a Leon Switch track from or whatever, like, or one of the tracks from your compilations, they can license it legally through you and put it in the show or the movie.
Right.
Whereas if you just have something on your Bandcamp, like, someone could just put that in a movie, and all you can really do is send them a cease and desist. Like, you can't really collect any royalties or anything like that. Like,
sure.
Like, if it's not properly distributed, like, you handle things. So.
And that's the benefit of being with a big distributor that like we are. We're with Triple Vision, who is based out of the Netherlands, and they're a little strict with who they take on, but the upside of that is that they'll put us in everything, and we get, PRO through them, royalties. Everything, like if I go and post something on YouTube through my personal channel that's related to the label, I'll get a warning from the distributor automatically. And I just have to like write them a quick note, like say, oh yeah, this is me.
I have permission to do
Yeah, yeah. I'm the label, by the way.
Yeah.
But the upside of that is like if, say, you sign a track to us, there is a chance that it'll be on a Toyota commercial or what have you.
Yeah. That's happened.
Which is, and that has happened with a Kelly Dean EP.
Yeah, and I mean, oh really? Just someone specifically on the label?
Yeah, 3 tracks from Rat Race were on Scion TV commercials.
Yo.
Yeah.
So cool.
Yeah.
And I mean, how many people do we know? I mean, like Bakir used to have all sorts of stuff. Like I feel like he used to tell me, Rick Bakir.
Yeah.
Yeah, like the Spit Brothers and Tuba Records. Shout out,
right,
homie. Definitely got me into a lot of this dub and dubstep culture stuff.
Yeah, he's a cool dude.
Yeah, and he was telling me that him and a lot of the other cats, I want to say maybe Distance as well. Other people have had this stuff on CIS or CSI.
Oh wow.
And just dark, ominous like tracks, in the background. Because we hear it as dance music or like club music, while other people hear it as like the aesthetic trope of that.
Sure.
You know what I mean? It's like a club music. Okay, like we're in a club in the scene, like in this episode or whatever, or we're driving a Scion.
Right.
So funny. But yeah, like again, if you don't have the music properly distributed and protected, the chances of it ending up in those places is zero.
Right.
Because they literally can't put.
Right. And like I'm pushing with my connections in LA and New York to get stuff licensed to film and video games and things like that.
Yeah.
As much as I can.
Yeah.
Right. And put it in front of music supervisors and let them have an ear to it.
Yeah.
Because I want to give my artist the opportunity to make money, because that's really where
and it can
you're going to get a fat check.
I forget who. I think it was Future Primitive or someone like that. Also had some tracks like on Toyota commercials and made his like first like quick stacks like off of that, and then was able to use that to go tour.
Yeah, it's ridiculous how much you can make off of 30 seconds of licensing your track, or 60 seconds, right? You're going to make more than selling 5,000 units on Beatport.
And it's really important to remember that when you're just putting out tracks for free on SoundCloud. Just because you don't think it's good enough doesn't mean like CSI isn't going to think it's just generic electronic music enough to want to put into one of their
speaking of
shows,
like,
so protect your content and put it out through good labels.
And that's hurt me once. Like I put out a track for free one time, and then maybe a year later or 6 months later, a major record label came to me and was like, "We're really into this track," and I was like, "Oh, that's great. I've always wanted to work with you. Your guys are like one of the biggest drum and bass fucking record labels in the world. Amazing." And then I was like, "Well, by the way, we gave it out for free, back here." And then they were like, "Well, we're not interested then." And I was like, dang it. That's terrible. Yeah. And then I made another track for them like a year later, and was like, "Well, how about this one?" They were like, "Well, it's not as good as the other one." I'm like, "Oh my God, no." So yeah, there is a downside to just releasing everything for free, because you never know when a major record label who didn't hear it yet wants to pick it up, or say Rolex or
clips are fine, right? Put a clip up.
Clips are fine, but if you give the whole track away for free and it's downloadable,
I'm a fan of the clip thing.
Yeah.
I mean, I've put up my stuff for free just because like I wanted to just have that as a benchmark, my first album. But
sure.
But yeah, I'm a fan of when people do clips, because if you put a clip up, someone can hear it. If they love it, they can hit you up.
Right.
And say, "Hey man, I'd love to DJ this track."
Yeah, the clip is different.
You know what I mean? Or I'd love to buy this track from you. Even if it's not out, I'll buy a sandwich or whatever.
But you just gotta think about, like, if you put a track out for free, 100% for free.
That's distributed at that point.
That's distributed at that point, and then a record label will not want to put it out. Because if I'm into your music and I hear this track that you have, And I'm like, that track's awesome. But you're like, oh, I gave it away for free 3 months ago. Okay,
Yeah.
well, now I don't want to put it out.
All the DJs already have it.
Yeah, it's
that
done.
are gonna have it.
And that's exactly why this big record label didn't want to put out the track that they liked to put
They
out.
have their promo lists, and they have their people, their mouths that they have to feed with new dubs.
Sure.
So that's like, and it's also like big labels create this false scarcity thing where they have to limit, like they're the gatekeeper, of that track. So that's how they make money off of the track in the first place.
Absolutely.
So like,
and also they're keeping a high quality standard.
Yeah, of course. And it's a lot of times it's like they're overdoing it, but like, they also want to get it to their huge DJs that they have on their lists, so that they can make a song popular that summer.
Right. Another thing to keep in mind too is that if you give a track away for free, the exclusive licensing goes away. So like you might still be able to license it, but when you look at the difference between a payout for a license versus an exclusive license, there's a significant difference of maybe 500% sometimes, right? So that's another thing to consider.
Yeah.
Like, don't just give away all your tracks for free.
No.
And it's okay to sit on tracks for a year, or longer.
Like, I mean, show all your homies your music.
Yeah.
Show as much as possible.
That's
and
fine.
when you're playing sets, play your music in your sets and see how they go off.
Yeah.
But like, you don't like, I don't know. I feel like there's doing your homework and then there's publishing your homework.
Right.
You know what I mean? And until someone says to you, this tune's the one, this is one of your confidants says that, or, you see someone who doesn't usually care about your music paying attention all of a sudden,
Mm-hmm.
That's when you start to put those songs in a folder that you never show anybody for
Right.
And then you show those to the
Right.
And it's those ones that usually end up, being put on and being shared by big DJs, or whatever it is.
Definitely.
That I've noticed. And this is just, through my experience with all the homies' music that I'm surrounded by.
Certainly.
But yeah, I mean, I feel like there's a million ways to do it. There's so many different philosophies. Some people, they just want to get their music out there. They don't care if they're going to play gigs. They don't care any of that. They just want their music to be out in the world. But I'm all about that.
Yeah, like Burial.
Sure.
He doesn't DJ.
No.
And they even say on Hyperdub, is it on their website or their Twitter or some social media account or something? It even says, Hyperdub, we don't do DJ bookings for Burial. And don't ask. Like it says right there, like, because probably they've got a ton of inquiries, right?
I'm sure, because no one knows where to ask.
Right.
And it's just like,
so they just ask.
He's become a phenomenon.
Right. And they're like, yeah, we don't send them out. But like, really, do you want like a room of 200 people crying? I don't know. Maybe. Just loving you.
Yeah. It's so funny how much of an archetype it's become. The fact that like, in such an ego-driven industry, who knew someone that didn't want to be known who they were would become like an archetypal star? You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, says something about like how maybe people could approach their marketing a little bit.
Yeah, it's a different type of marketing, totally, and it's like the anti-marketing.
It's not. It doesn't work anymore, just because like there's so much saturation now.
Sure.
That like you're battling against, 10,000 people that are marketing,
right?
What I mean? That have budgets to put into things, and they can pay a publicist. They can pay for graphic design or video, motion graphics that you can't afford.
But also, like Burial had created something magical with like, Sony Acid.
Yeah,
and just editing audio.
Grid.
No, and like samples from Metal Gear.
And it was at the time that it came out. It was all very much like
right, and you just had the right people promoting it, pushing it behind. Like if there's like occasionally in the music industry you'll have someone that's just like so good, and they have something so unique that they don't need to be good at marketing. Because the right people will just be like, oh, wow, this is the
Everybody
goal.
wants to be that guy, though, but, like, wanting to be a prodigy is a really unhealthy.
No, you should just go for it.
You should just do you.
Yeah.
And try all the different techniques and see what works.
Yeah.
Because some shit for some people is going to work. Some people, for some people, being a DJ and having a ton of merch and running a label you know
Yep.
what I mean, is going to be the move.
Yeah,
You
sure.
know what I mean? And then for some people, they're so prolific that only playing 5 shows a year and wearing a mask is the move.
Right.
You know what I mean? Or whatever it is, you know.
Right.
So there's a lot of
or just playing a show once every 10 years.
Yeah.
And then like it's sold out and people are selling tickets
who
for
is it?
$900.
Enya lives in a castle like with you know, her multi-million-dollar estate and never played a show. You know?
Or was it, I think it was Future Sound of London.
Sure.
They would never actually play the shows. They would always broadcast them over the internet to the venue. So they never would ever be at the venue.
I'm about that.
And that was like a requirement, you know, like, yeah, we'll play the show, but we're not actually going to be in the building. That's like part of our
broadcasted in.
Yeah, we have to be broadcasted.
You could do that now with a green screen in a studio and just like project them onto the
I'm just
stage.
going to be a hologram.
Yeah. It's going to be a thing. It'll be a thing. Think about it this way. It's not even like a pretentious thing. It's like say so and so's in Germany, you know what I mean? Pipe them in like to the stage and run it through the sound system. Once we get to the point where everybody's on fiber optic and we can be pumping, you know, high quality waves through the internet,
right?
You know, that'll be a thing.
Yeah, it will be.
I feel like we're already pretty close to that.
Totally.
You know, like I'd like to do that with LostinSound.live is synchronize a festival of sorts where you have sets back to back all over the world.
Yeah.
You just sync it through a calendar. So you can
That'd
sit
be
back
great.
at home and watch shows pop off from different places.
Sure. And then you have parties at different venues all using the same music, but at what each venue takes an hour.
Yeah. Certain
from
spots
the show.
actually have performers.
Right.
Certain spots are just for viewing.
Absolutely. But they're all connected.
Yeah.
And maybe they have dedicated
and you could
chat
do
rooms.
Music that isn't meant for clubs.
No.
You know, it
doesn't
could all
necessarily
just
have to be
like Warp Records type stuff or you know, Brain Feeder type stuff.
Sure.
Just listening music.
I have this weird like dream of having a club venue that just has like, you know, mastering grade studio monitors and like it doesn't get played at ridiculous volume.
Yeah. It's like an audiophile venue.
The room is just tuned and maybe they serve like fine hors d'oeuvres and like tea. And it, you know, it just sit there and like you talk about the track and you're like talk about who made it and like when it was made and what label it came on and you play it from beginning to
someone
end.
with a really nice microphone and a really good voice. Like,
yes.
Yeah.
Play.
Yeah.
And then the next person comes up and they talk about the one track, you know, that they're gonna play. And then they play that track and everyone.
I would love that. It'd just be like album listening parties, like nonstop, essentially.
Absolutely.
You have DJs that are like essentially hosting a radio show.
Right.
But yeah.
And
I love that.
And let's say
Denver's the place to do it, man.
Yeah. If you are in Denver and you have like and you get 50 DJs or producers or both to come out and say, okay, pick one tune.
Yeah.
Any genre, any style.
Yeah.
To play in this acoustically tuned, you know, sonically beautiful space. Go.
I like it.
And then, you know, that they're all going to try really hard.
What would you play?
Oh my God.
Don't.
I don't know.
If you could play ridiculous. If you could play one track to articulate the importance of like a well-treated room and good speakers to people that of all different, you know, backgrounds, you know, just say it's just like a swath of people from, you know, the music lovers of the world all in one space. If you could play one track, what would it be?
I don't know, man. That's such a hard question.
3 tracks then. Fine.
I'd have to listen to them.
You could triangulate them.
Oh, wow.
I'd have to listen to the room first. No,
I used to have access to a room like this at Indiana University, and they have this just ridiculously tuned control room with these really nice ATC speakers, and it's just like, just this way those speakers sound, just, it's unfair. Like, it's just like heaven, like acoustic heaven, like, oh. And they're in the right room, like the room is built for them to be there, like, and the walls are built to hold those speakers. You know, they're not just on stands; they're built into the damn walls, and the walls were cut to hold the speakers. Right, like, it's amazing.
And what did you listen to in there?
Well, I just went through a gamut of different things, right? But the first thing that comes to mind is this song called Propeller Seeds by a beautiful artist and producer and musician, Imogen Heap. And collaborating with a sound designer. I can't remember his name, but this one song has all these really wonderful sound design nuggets in it where she talks about, like the tree growing through her fingertips and toes, but then you hear like roots growing through the earth and like leaves sprouting, and it's like really wide in the stereo field, like, and just immersing you. And then there's lines where she talks about like being at a restaurant and you hear like the background of the restaurant, and then talking about taking a cold shower and the reverb of the space changes to being in the bathroom, and then like and her voice is moving all over the space, but then there's all these other corresponding sound designs that are related to the story that she's telling with her vocal. It's pretty impressive. I've always thought she was an amazing producer, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, and just an amazing musician. Top 3. Well, yeah. I don't know, man. Like, it's really hard to pick. And I'd probably pick something from the 70s. And I've really been in this tip of like rare groove and funk music from the 70s.
A lot of audiophiles are.
Yeah.
It's because of the hardware that was being used.
And that sound is like even hard to capture.
Sound.
Sure. It's like trying to do that now is hard to do, and somehow it's like it wasn't perfect, but it is perfect.
Certain people I feel like tap into it. I feel like Anderson .Paak taps into like
totally
that vibe.
Yeah, that vibe, but that like the tone of
yeah.
those sounds being tracked to tape, and like the technology they're using, a lot of tube driven amplifiers. I don't know.
It's hard to achieve with computers. It's impossible to achieve with the computers.
Sure.
That same warmth and that same articulation of all the different sounds. Because it's going through computer, or not computer, it's going through literal just chips,
Yeah.
like boards and SSL mixers.
Right, and you didn't have the capability of perfecting everything, right?
Right.
Like you had to track it to tape, and then you could cut the tape physically, and that was like the most editing you could do, and maybe you could overdub, but you didn't have automation. You couldn't play back the same bar 50 times and fine tune it. Not that there's anything necessarily wrong with that, but like there's something about like 20 skilled musicians in a live session
doing it once,
doing it all at once. Like another track I might play is this track. It's from this the soundtrack for an old blaxploitation film called Superfly, and the whole soundtrack was composed by Chris Mayfield.
Yeah,
and
legend.
there's a legend, and there's a track in there called "Give Me Your Love," and there must be 20 instruments, like horns and strings, and him singing and vocalizations of percussion, and there's congos, and it's just a full ensemble, right? And whoever recorded that did a really good job. And then there's like parts in the song where they do this big crescendo, and then they just shift the groove, like slight. It's the same notes and the same rhythm, but they just shifted the way it's being played very slightly, and it just is so tasty. Like just like a fine wine, or just like a good piece of cheese, or like, it's very subtle, but it's just like
classy.
Yeah, it's classy. And like the mix down is just, it's really good. It's not in your face, but it's not too thin. And it's not like, it's
and
just
there's
like,
20 people present.
Yeah. And it's just like, and they're all there, and no one's too harsh and no one's too soft. And it's a good
Great
track.
examples.
That whole like soundtrack is a good soundtrack, but that track in particular is one of my favorite. And beside the technical like accomplishment of making something like that in the 70s, it just has a vibe that just like makes you feel good, you know? Yeah.
That's the soul.
Yeah, definitely.
And you can find that in every type of music. You just gotta
you can
dig in, find it. It's there.
it's always been something with.
Not every song, but every type of music for sure.
It's been something I struggle with in my own music. Is like, how do I imbue emotion into all this technical, machine, right?
Yeah.
How do I make them feel? And they're just like circuits,
Mhm.
not being played by anything but data or voltages or me telling it or giving it data to tell it to do something, right?
Yeah.
So how do you make it feel something, right?
I feel like that's the value of separating the sound design process from the actual production process, like you do in a lot of ways.
Sure.
So you're not necessarily in that scientific headspace as much,
Right.
and you're almost like in the storytelling headspace,
right?
And you're using those sounds that you made at a different time.
Yeah, they're also like sound designs could be like little characters too in the story. But you're right. It is two different kind of headspaces where I feel like sound design can be very paying attention to micro tunings and slight variations in parameters, and you can get lost tweaking an atmospheric sound or a bass sound for hours and hours and hours, and then you'll lose track of your compositional intentions or what have you, right? And then it does help me tremendously to have, like, say, a palette, if you will, of sounds already pre-made that I've done over the past week or month or whatever, and then just have them to pull from while I'm in the mode of composing. Because when you're feeling something like frustration or sadness or love or hype, right? You just want to be able to translate that in your recording,
right,
in the DAW or whatever
to other
medium
people
you're using, to other people as quickly as possible. And the less time you have to spend tweaking, how much pitch modulation you have on oscillator 2 will help you get that feeling down quicker, right?
Out of your head and into the software.
Sure. And like some of the best music I have ever written had come out really fast because I'd already.
And that's what I hear across the board from everybody that I ask that.
Like a song I played last night that I made with Section 8, like pretty much had all these patches made from a sound bank that I worked on, right? And I just sat on my computer in the studio and just started writing little riffs or one note of the sound that I made and turning it into audio, or writing like 3 notes and then turning it into audio and sending it over to his machine where we were running Logic as well, and just like running it through more filters and more processing. Just having all those sounds already made, just popping them in. All right, try this one, try this one, try this one, try this one, and then putting it in the key of the song and then like massaging it in, like just makes it really quick to get that emotional expression out there. Right.
Makes sense. Sweet, man. Well, if there's one thing that you want to leave as a little breadcrumb for new music producers or DJs, what do you think that would be? As far as just creative energy and creative drive and not getting like caught up in bullshit in your own head. What would one little crumb be? One little tidbit of information. It can be really vague, or it can be very specific.
I mean, I think the main thing is just to enjoy it and have fun, and remember why you started doing this, right? And don't get caught up in the politics of it and the competitive side of it.
Yeah.
Especially when you're writing music. And also, if you're just starting off, don't worry about perfecting that piece of music that you started. That's your second or third piece of music. Don't worry about perfecting it. Just finish it.
Or start as many new ones.
Or just start a new one.
Yeah,
start a new one. Oh, that one's not perfect? Fine. Next. Because especially in the beginning, you're going to learn a lot really, really quickly. And you'll progress really quickly. Especially if you don't just sit on one track for 60 hours trying to tweak one loop when it's your second or third tune ever made.
I think that's great advice. Have fun.
Yeah, have fun.
Yeah.
And it's something that I've had to relearn too.
And if you're not,
right?
it's because you're taking it or yourself too seriously.
Sure.
You know, and we all do that. Everybody does that.
Yeah, I still do that.
Yeah,
And that's something I've had to
Everybody does.
unlearn. Like I think when I first started, it was fun, right?
Yeah.
But then become less fun because I wasn't making the tracks I wanted to.
Or you
right?
can get trapped in all the rules, like we were
right.
talking about.
But then, like when I started to learn all the rules and I could make tracks I wanted to, I had to learn to let go some of the technical things I had learned, right, in order to have fun again. Yeah. So it's like this crazy balance. And now, after 22 years, I've finally learned to like let go of some stupid rules and just have fun with the track. And then when you're in your own studio and you've just started a bar and a beat, and you're like, okay, I like this now, right? Like this is good. I'm into it. Like recently I'm working on a collab right now that might be coming out next year on Sub Pressure. But when I first got the collab back, I was like, I don't like this right now. Like what the hell? Oh, wait a second. I'll just change it until I do like it.
That's the point.
Yeah, that's the point.
Do whatever I want.
Wait, I should. What do I not like about it? Right. Like what? One of the things that Brian Eno says is like write down the qualities that you like. Yeah. Write down what you don't like. Okay, now get rid of what you don't like. Right. Like
first things first.
Yeah, I don't know if that's the quote.
No, but it
exactly.
Makes sense.
But
it's
yeah,
like reduction.
Basically, yeah. Write down what you want. Write down what it has.
Yeah.
Change those things, right? Like,
it's a great way to go through problem solving anything.
Like in this song, the bass line was just so aggressive and like so intense and in your face, and I was like, God, man, I don't really like that. Well, I'm going to subdue it, but filter on it. Yeah. Do this, do that, add a little bit of reverb, split the frequency bands, send that here, do this. Oh, wow, now it sounds sick. Okay, cool. I'm more into this now. Okay, now I find, because I did that with the bass line, now I have space to put this, that sound here. Oh, yeah, it's sick now. Oh, I had this rule about not ever using this like nostalgic D&B tune because of like some jaded ass D&B heads that would be like, oh, that song, that tune's and that sample's in this tune from 1997 has already been used. Well, like, you know what? I don't care anymore.
Why we're using it.
I'm just going to put it in here in this 2019 and I'm going to throw it back because you know what? Half of these kids don't even know where that sample came from.
And the few that do, they'll think they're special because they do.
Oh my gosh, I know that sample tune. Yeah, right. Yes, that sample is a classic.
Well, I think that's great feedback, and I really appreciate you taking the time to make it over while you're here visiting the fam. And
yeah, man,
we're gonna do this.
It's great
again.
to talk to you.
Yeah, totally. And I mean, that's why I'm doing this, man. Is like, it's great. Obviously, content's king. Like, that's important. But sitting down with homies and having intentional conversations, I definitely am gonna. Anytime you're out here, we'll try and sit down and just do this. I'm gonna be doing these, as many times a month as possible. People I can get in here.
Wonderful.
Well,
I'll be back out here in the spring.
Yeah, perfect. And for anybody that's unfamiliar with his music, his label is sub.pressure, and his productions are under the name KIAL, like Vile.
Yep.
Yeah, man. I like I said, appreciate you stopping through, and we will chat again very soon.
Yeah, thanks, Pat.
Much love, brother.
Much love.